Welcome back to the Circuit Revival, where today we're going to take a look at this Xbox One S. It looks like it's in fairly decent condition overall. The warranty seal is still intact, which is kind of good. Gives me a better chance with this. It was listed as just faulty. I've not done really much with it yet other than just taking a look. I think the biggest thing that kind of stands out is the HDMI doesn't look a little bit healthy. So if we just bring this down, we can see there the clasp is sort of a bit latched open. I think if you look on the right hand side there, you can kind of see the pins don't look too great either. So I have a feeling that that's probably going to be our issue. But we'll start just by trying to see if this thing turns on. So I've got a power cable here. We'll get this plugged in. And let's see if we have power. Okay, so it turns on. And stays on, which is good. This thing is very dusty. Okay, now I'm not going to plug a HDMI into this yet just because that port looks bad, so I'm hoping that's the only thing wrong with this. So we'll just turn this off and then we'll start getting this open. Okay, that's turned off there. Now to get these open we have to sort of like latch this bottom bit off. Now I've only ever taken one of these apart before, and from what I gather, it's pretty difficult to get this off without sort of like snapping bits. So hopefully we'll be able to get it off. Okay. Keep working our way around. Hopefully we don't break anything. Okay, so far so good. Although there is some real gunk on this thing. Look at that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working my way around this. Let's see if we can lift this off now then. Try not to snap the bit where, oh my goodness, this might need a clean. That is all just fallen out. Which definitely I think answers the question as to whether anyone's been in this before. Because if you've been in this and you leave that in there, I don't know what you're doing. Okay, and we're off, and we didn't break it. That's good. It's a bit stiff on there. They clearly did sort of like a good job at getting it to stay, and doesn't look like we've destroyed the warranty seal too much. Just get this out of the way. We'll give that a clean out in a little bit. So next we have a bunch of screws to deal with. Whoa. Okay, there's the big reveal. Look at all of that dust. Okay, this is going to need a good clean out. You can see it all down the sides as well. Not surprising, this is an old console. It's not really that surprising that it's got this much stuff all over it. And what I'm going to do with the hard drive now that we've got it unplugged is I'm just going to plug it into my computer and see what it shows, see what the health of this hard drive is. Okay, so you can see here a bit of software that's open. It's called Crystal Disk Info, and this is going to show you initially the hard drive of my laptop. You'll see it's got some sort of very low power on count and power on hours because it's quite a new laptop that I've got up here. But what I'm going to do is I'll plug in the hard drive from our Xbox here, and hopefully this should show up on here. So we had the blink, so it's definitely connected. And I think if we come on to here and refresh, hopefully it should come up on here. Sorry, rescan. Okay, and here it is. So this has had 49,866 power ons and is 10,280 power on hours. It's showing as good, which isn't too bad. But this has clearly seen a lot of use. Again, not too surprising for a drive of this age though. But that's all good, so we can unplug this and continue on with the Xbox. Okay, so we should be able to lift this out now. And reveal even more dust. Okay, there we go, that's much better now, and that sort of reveals the rest of the board. So if we take a look a bit closer at this HDMI now, I think we can kind of see how bad it is. So let's get the microscope round. Okay, here we are under the microscope, and you can see that HDMI port there does not look very healthy. So I'm glad I didn't plug that in, because those 3 pins at the end don't look too promising. And you can see the clasp is sort of like bent out here. It's a little bit loose as well, in all fairness, so I'm surprised it's sort of like survived this long. So what we'll do then is we'll get this HDMI off. I think we might even be able to do it with the rest of the stuff on the board, but I think given that this is such an old board and I'll probably need to replace the thermal paste anyway, I think we'll just get the heatsink and everything off just so we can do that. Although this board does not look like it's been out at all, I do not know what the factory has done with this, but there is like gunk all over the board. I don't know if this is like thermal paste or what, but the factory looks like they had a bad time with this one. So this is the X clamp, and this is where a lot of people struggle, because they try and get sort of like screwdrivers and things inside to try and bend it off, and you can end up scratching through the board. So instead I've got this tool here, which is the X clamp tool, which I believe you just slide in on the end here and then just lift up, and you can see it just lifts straight off without sort of like breaking anything. So slot in the side and then lever up. And I'm just going to do this in sort of like a cross pattern so that the pressure is sort of continually even across it. And then you can see this will just lift off. And I'm glad I've done this, because that thermal paste is dry, and look at the amount of dust on the bottom of this thing. That's so grim. Okay, so that's not all of it off, but I'm just a bit worried about knocking off some of those capacitors, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and we can work out whether the stuff on the back of this also is sort of like thermal paste and whether it comes off just with a sort of a wipe. Okay, so that's a bit better there, so let's see if we can get this port off. So I think the easiest way to get this off is probably the same as how we've got all the other ports off, which is just to heat it up from underneath and then lift it out, really. Okay, so to start off with this, I'm just going to add some leaded solder to the points on the HDMI port here, just to help it along a bit. I'm hoping it is just the HDMI that needs replacing, but sometimes when the HDMI goes, this chip just here, which I believe is the HDMI encoder, goes as well. So we'll see whether we need to replace that, but for now I've just got some leaded solder, and we're just going to add this to the solder legs of the port. It's going to require a lot of heat to get this warmed up, because there's going to be a big ground pad. So I think I'm going to have to increase the heat on my iron anyway, because it looks like it's really struggling to take, and that's just evidence as to how much thermal mass there is on these things. So I'll increase the temperature on my iron. Okay, so I've set my iron to max. Let's see if this will take. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so we just added some leaded solder to the port there. So what we'll do is mount this up over the edge of the desk like we have done with our switches and stuff. And then I'm going to heat it up from underneath and then hopefully just lift it off. Okay, so what we'll do then is we'll pull the microscope round and then hopefully be able to see this a bit clearer. Yeah, so I'll just focus my wand underneath here, and then I'm sort of hoping to see some of the points start to wet. So if I just move over to the microscope. So what I'm hoping to see is probably these bits here start to go wet, and then that's where I know I can lift it up, and I'm just going to lift it off of the board. So we'll start with the heat. Okay, so that's all off now. We've got that extra leg out. I think the key thing and the key takeaway to this is that none of the pads look ripped. That's the problem with trying to get some of these sort of like bigger ports and stuff off, is people can get impatient and end up sort of tearing the pads off of the board. Well, actually, we might get away with this. I think if we do it quick enough, we probably won't melt it. So let's just come back in and add some more leaded solder to all of this. Again, this might not be the best or the right way, but we'll see how it goes. We get our new port. We can see just in here how that should look compared to the old one. That looks like this. So yeah, definitely needed replacing. And like with the switch ports, what we'll do is we'll add some flux to this, and we'll tin the port as well. So these should hopefully be a bit easier to do because there's only one row of pins to them. Okay, I'll just add a bit of flux to this, try and get rid of those bridges. Just one little one left there at the end. There we go, there's no bridges there now. Okay, so we'll try the same just in reverse then and see if we can drop this in without causing too much damage. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I'm not entirely sure quite how well that went because the port was so cold when it went in, it sort of like got stuck and we needed to wait for it to heat up again, but it doesn't look too bad. So we'll give this a bit of a clean up and then we'll take it out of the board holders and take a closer look at it. Okay, so here we are a bit closer. It is definitely a bit crooked, but yeah, these are definitely not connected very well, so I think we'll have to go back over these. That's not a problem. Let's get this turned around to make it a bit easier. We'll add just a bit of flux behind here, and then I'm just going to run over all of this with my soldering iron. So we'll come in and just, probably a bit too much solder on here. That's not a problem, we can sort of like drag it and then remove it from the end. Put a bit of fresh flux on there. We might need to come in with the solder wick just to get that last bit up though. We'll see if we can drag it out with the soldering iron to begin with. Okay, I can't quite see properly with that, so the best thing to do is let's get our multimeter out and test for continuity between those pins. Okay, so we've got the board up. So with this, if we get, we'll hear a beep if we get a continuous circuit, which you'll see if we put the two probes together. So we're hoping to not hear a beep. Okay, so I think okay, so it does look like we've got some bridges underneath there. Let's try a little bit of solder braid then, see if we can just get some of this excess off. Let's just try with the meter again now. So those two definitely shouldn't be together, and neither should those two, because I think they're the two data lines. So I can't tell if there's a bridge underneath this that's causing all of this. So we might just need to take the port off and try again. Okay, I think we try remove the port just to double check. Let's get this off quickly, and then we'll check the pads underneath just to make sure. Yeah, so taking a look at the port, I think the bridges were underneath, because if we just go straight onto the pads, you can see there's no connection between these. The only ones that might be is this one and this one, because they're both ground. But I think there is just a little bit of extra solder on the underside of this port, which is probably a bit harder to avoid than some of the other ports that we have had in the past. You can see just there, that's where those bridges are. So we'll try to see if we can remove them, and then try and get this back on with a little less solder this time. Now that technically there should be the right amount of solder there. Okay, that's all the bridges gone now. Okay, so let's try and install this again. I think what we're going to do this time is maybe be just a little less solder if we need to touch them up, and then maybe just try and come in and just tap the edges so it tries to sort of like drag it up rather than run it over like we did before. Okay, so that felt like it went on a bit sort of cleaner. I think a lot of that was I just held it down for a bit longer before releasing the heat, just to give the port enough time to heat up as well as the board. So I didn't do that thing where it just sort of like dried out the solder joints as soon as it touched. So we'll do the same again. We'll test these solder joints, and then if we need to add a bit more solder to them, we'll just use a little less solder and just tap the ends this time. Okay, here's our solder. Let's just give these a little nudge, see whether they move. Oh, that one moved. That one moved. That one did. That one did. Okay, that wasn't too bad that time actually. Last time they were all off. This time only some of them are off. So what we're going to do then is I will add some solder to my iron, and this time I think I'm going to use a different tip in the hopes that this works a bit better. So I have this weird stack of tips here, and I'm going to look for a smaller one, maybe this one here. So if we come there, you can see it's got a really fine tip compared to the other one, and I'm hoping this should work a bit better. Okay, this will be the first time I've used this tip, so I don't quite know how it's going to go, but we'll give it a try. Just tap each. Damn it. Okay, we did get a bridge. So I think what we'll try and do then is let me remove all the solder off of here, and let's try and see if we can drag this out. Maybe try just a little bit of wick on this, just so we don't push it in any further like we did last time. Okay, that might have got rid of that. Let's try again, maybe just a little less solder this time. Okay, we've got another bridge there. Another bridge there. Okay, let's just try grab this wick again and just grab those bridges. Let's try and grab the other one. And looks like we might have got rid of our bridges. Let's give this a little clean up and then see whether they are connected now. Okay, that does look pretty good. Let's give these a nudge then. That one's connected. That one's connected. 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 That went well. So it just evidence that sometimes just using the right tools makes all the difference. Okay, let's get our meter back and let's just double check whether we have any bridges then. So we go the two end ones. Nope. Nope. Excellent, no bridges there. The bibs you did here was just where I accidentally touched the probes together. So that should be all good. So I'll just give this board a little bit more of a clean up. And then I suppose we should probably try and see if this works. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up a bit as I go along, but I'm not going to bore you with that because there is a lot to clean up here. So what I'll do is I'll get this back together and I'll jump back in once we're all done. Okay, so we're almost back together again now, but I thought it's probably best just to check that it still turns on before I put the base on. So I had the crackle and it turns on. And does it stay on? Yeah. Okay, we'll turn this off, get the base on, and we'll see whether our HDMI replacement worked. Button still works, so what we'll do is I'll pull this over to the TV and we'll see whether this fires up and gives us a screen. Okay, so we're set up to the TV here. We'll start just by trying to turn it on. Get power on. Let's see whether we get anything to the screen. Just double check I'm on the right screen. There we go. Excellent. Cool. Wrong screen. So there it is. So our HDMI replacement was good. See whether this loads up properly. The color on the camera here is a bit different to what it actually looks like. It does look like the proper green on the TV. I don't know whether it usually stays on the Xbox One screen for this long. Okay, so looks like someone may have been able to factory reset this. Let's see whether we can pair to a controller. So I'll press sync on here and sync on the controller. Okay, and controller is synced. So I've got the controller here. Let's skip sign in for now. We'll just double check the screen resolution. TV and display options. Resolution up to 1080p. This TV won't go any further than that, but there we go, 1080p. So that is all good. Let's just jump back over to the desk. Well, there we go. There is another fix. So let's increase our count here to 18 to 8. So that was a good one. I'm glad we didn't break any of the plastic whilst trying to remove the bottom off. And it certainly looks a bit cleaner than it was. It's still not perfect, but that HDMI is now solid. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.